Yes.
We got it. Yes. Thank you all for being here. And I'm going to pass it over to Stephanie.
Hi, everyone. My name is Stephanie Salazar Rodriguez, and I am the CEO and lead trainer for Blazing Cloud Consulting. And first and foremost, I want to thank you for allowing me to be here today. And also thank you for being youth leaders. I learned a lot from what you all said in the icebreaker. And I want to say before I start that in my younger years, I too was a perfectionist and put a lot of pressure on myself. And as I've gotten older, I realized that there is no such thing as perfection because we're all human. So now what I do is I strive for excellence. And that has really taken a lot of pressure off of myself. I want to start by giving you a little bit of background on who I am and kind of where I come from. I am actually from a mixed Latino and Native American background. My roots go back over 600 years to the original pueblos of the Anasazi. And this is a picture of my dearly departed father. And you'll see that little red circle there. That's me when I was about 4 years old. So these were my siblings. Unfortunately, 2 of them have passed on now. But this was the environment that I grew up in, and I grew up in Westwood. My family had been here for over 100 years in Denver. I'm a second generation native Denverite. And my parents were migrant farm workers. And they really, they really instilled the importance of equity and social justice. And one of my dogs is barking. And I can't mute myself. So hold on one second. Roberto. Let me open the door for the dog, okay? I'm so sorry.
No worries, Stephanie. I love it. That's part of it. Those are your babies. You know, I got a baby over here too, so I know how it is.
Exactly. Okay. All right. So as my parents were young, brought us up really looking at social justice and equity issues. In my very early years, when I first got my start, was with Cesar Chavez and the United Farm Workers when I was probably about 10 years old. By the time I was 14, I was working on campaigns of many of the Latino individuals who served as early legislators in the 1980s and 90s. And in 1980, I served as the director of the Southwest Voter Registration and Education Project, which was based out of San Antonio, Texas. And when I was 19 years old, I was honored as a presidential breakfast with former President Jimmy Carter. And today, this picture that is there of me with President Carter hangs in the halls of the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C. As I said earlier, I come from a mixed Latino and Native American background. I have over 30 years experience working in the community as a community connector, doing community engagement, authentic community engagement, patient participatory research, and just working to help improve my community. I currently am working a lot in public health and health equity. I do training and technical assistance, health insurance literacy and acquisition, and I also have experience working in early childhood education. You'll see the photo in the top right corner is one of my recent events that I hosted in the community. And please, I would really like to engage all of you. And if you have any questions or you would like to say something, please feel free to do that. I actually have a Q&A at the end, but I can't see you all because I'm presenting. And so if you have any questions or you want to respond to something, please do it. I strongly encourage you to unmute yourself and go ahead and speak. For 4 years, I was the regional health connector at Mile High Health Alliance from 2017 to 2016 to 2020. And on the left slide there was in 2019, I was doing this work as a side hustle. And I had been working with Sedona since I met Sedona, and she was a youth advisor when she was like 16. So I've been working with her for many, many years. And it happens that in 2019, both Sedona and I received an award at Public Health in the Rockies. Hers was for, I think, emerging leader, and mine was for general contribution in public health. And I put turning adversity to opportunity because in 2020, right in the height of COVID, I actually lost my job. And I really had hoped and prayed that I was going to retire from that job. And as an elder, I was laid off from my job. And I was like, what am I going to do? Just like Candy just said, how she thought how this major resource income flow just dried up. And then she had this wonderful opportunity. So in 2020, I was laid off from my job in February. By the end of February, I took my side hustle to a full-time career. And these are some of the projects that I have worked on recently. And I am so grateful. And also the work that I have done in community, all the work that I have done that I'll be sharing with you has all been word of mouth as a result of the contacts that I have created in the community over the last 30 years. So this is my mission and vision, and I'm not sure if Sedona has already talked to all of you about this, but anyone who's starting their own business, they really need to have a mission statement and a vision statement. And so these are the things that are really important to me. And as a person earlier, I didn't say that my pronouns are she, her, and ella, but I do speak Spanish, and I really, it's so important for me to be able to work in communities to provide culturally and linguistically competent training and technical services. And really public health and education are really the things that are so important to me. And this picture in the right is another event that I hosted, which was a health and wellness expo. And this particular event, I had a zero budget for this event, but I was able to go into community and to ask people for donations. And it ended up that I was able to get money to host the event. I had a sponsor that actually provided a free farmers market where we had fruits and vegetables for all the attendees. And we had over 30 community organizations that were there providing services for community health, public health, domestic violence, education, just a number of things to really help engage the community and provide resources. Currently, my priorities are working in the Latino and Native American community because they really are my communities. I am really committed and working on diversity, equity, education, inclusion, and beyond, because after we look at DEI work, we also look at people being welcome. Just because we're at the table doesn't mean that we feel welcome. So really, we want to move beyond diversity, equity, and inclusion. Also, the work that I do is training and technical assistance, and I do special events. Last year, I did a big event at Garfield Lake Park, and Sedona was part of that event. And it was a youth violence prevention event that I received funding from the City of Denver Office of Children's Affairs. And so I bring all these entities together, the nonprofit, the health, public health, small business, the media, and of course the government, which is sometimes where I get some of my funding. I really am fortunate in the work that I do that I get to pick and choose the work that I want. If I apply for a grant and there's too many stipulations or there's too much bureaucracy, I have the ability to say, no, I don't want to do that. And so I feel very, very fortunate that I'm able to do what I do and to provide the services, but I am able to make my own decisions on the work that brings me joy and passion. From 2021 to 2022, these are some of the partners that I have worked with. Currently, I work with Latina Safe House, which is the domestic violence entity that is serving the Latina community in the Denver metro area. And I am their executive leadership coach, and I'm also working with them on strategic planning and capacity building. I work with Colorado Health Institute. I'm on the Community Advisory Council for the University of Colorado Cancer Center. I am doing a project with the Denver Department of Public Health and Environment on overdose prevention and Narcan distribution. And so that's a really great project. I work with the Promotoras de Esperanza, and really they're doing a lot of work in peer recovery, people who are recovering from substance misuse. And there's some amazing group of promotoras. I work with Colorado Blueprint to End Hunger, and we're really working on hunger, trying to eliminate hunger in our communities. And so that is a statewide initiative. So I'm very, very fortunate that these are some of the partners that I have been working with in the last couple of years. And as you can see there, I also have the Health Equity Coalition that Kory and Sedona are both a part of. And I am so, so blessed and feel so honored to be able to work with these amazing young ladies. This is some of the work that I did. This is the big event that Sedona was part of. We gave away all kinds of food. We had boxes of food. We had lots of giveaways. I had people donate bicycles. We just gave away a lot of, as a matter of fact, is that Sedona in that picture? I think it is. And so this is the inaugural year of my position full-time doing that. And of course, we all know that COVID hit, but we really wanted to still do things in community. So we were able to come out. Initially, we did a lot of things virtually, but then we were able to have this large event that we did in community. And then also I was working with Connect for Health Colorado, and we were helping people learn about health insurance enrollment. So we had a large virtual health insurance event. And then I had 8 special events in the community last year. These are some of the flyers of some of the work that I've done. Sedona was just involved in the Active Coalition Trauma Community Summit, as was Kory. And that's right, she was pregnant of Yaritza. And so she still came out and obviously did her thing all during her pregnancy. And part of the work that I did is, that I'm very proud of, that we served over 500 community members. I was able to hire 25 consultants to come in and work on my project. We had 5 community, I was able to sponsor 5 community events. I was one of the sponsors for the ACT Summit there. And so my business was, and so this year I have sponsored like 6 special events. I was able to donate to 10 nonprofit organizations and do at least 150 hours of volunteer work and mentoring. So these are just some of the accomplishments for year 1 of the project. And now I'm having trouble advancing. As we know, COVID hit, and one of the things was that I worked really, really hard in several different areas working with COVID. It started with the testing, and it went to education, and then it went to the vaccine. And then I worked with the university to try and get information out about the monoclonal antibody. The project was called COSIL, or Colorado SIL, that was funded out of NIH. So I worked with some of the Latina legislators that we brought the COVID testing sites and then the COVID vaccination sites to the communities of color that were so disproportionately impacted by severe illness and or death. And so I was really happy to be able to partner with some of these individuals. This is something that I really want to talk to you about and spend some time on. This particular slide is really talking about working with community. As all of you are learning, there are many ways to get into community and to work with community. But one of the things that is the most important is being able to show up at these events and show up and show up and show up again. People start to know your name. First and then they know your face, and then they know that you become a trusted leader in the community. And then people call you all the time. People call me. I get calls all the time for things that, are like, do you know this resource? Do you know that resource? How can we get into here? Would you like to be part of this event? Do you know other people that are interested in tabling at this event? So just really, really important that as you're growing your careers, your portfolios, your resumes, the thing that is so important is working in community. I can't tell you the number of years that I did countless jobs in a volunteer capacity. And now I am so fortunate that I get to pick and choose what I want to volunteer. But really, for me, it is so important to be able to compensate individuals for the work that they are doing. When I apply for a grant or a contract, I build into my budget paying individuals, and no one who works for me makes less than $50 an hour because I believe in compensating people. And if possible, I will pay them $80 to $100 an hour, depending on the grant. But it is so important for me to understand that we need to pay people for their expertise and for their time. Yes, if people choose to do volunteer work, and especially when you're young, that's amazing. But I feel deep, deep in my heart and to my core that we cannot take advantage of people who are willing to do work for us. They have worked very hard to get to where they are, and they bring a special skill set. Like Candy said about her massage therapy. Oh my gosh, I mean, that is just amazing. And I know people that will, call me and say, well, do you know a good massage therapist that's cheap? And I say, no, but I know a great massage therapist that's reasonable. And so I feel like I never want to take advantage of people, and I want to make sure that they are compensated. And that is something that I also come to the table with in working with Kory. And Sedona has worked for me on a number of occasions, and I will never, ever ask her to do something for free. If she wants to give me a discount, she will. Other than that, I don't ask for that. And I think it's so important for all of us to know our value, and for us to make sure that we let people know that we know our value. The work that I'm doing right now is really talking about emerging and urgent issues. As I talked earlier, there's a significant issue with overdosing with drugs that are laced with fentanyl, and people are dying, young people are dying. And it's really important to get information out to community. So that's one of the projects that I'm working on. And so that's how I talk about emerging issues. None of us knew COVID was going to happen, right? But it's an emerging public health issue. And the fentanyl overdose has been going on for several years. I think 2018 or 19 is when we first started seeing it, but it's gotten worse every year. So I really am open to anything that is going on. Now we have monkeypox. I haven't started working on that, but I presume that I will do some of that soon. And then when we talk about community, authentic community engagement, do all of you know about authentic community engagement? Is that something you're already working on with Sedona? Can I get a few people to answer? I can't see you, but if anybody wants to talk to me about what you're doing in community engagement.
Yeah, so we have started doing community engagement, at least in my experience. Just like I wasn't able to make it to the ACT Summit, but I know a lot of people were, and we'll be doing the public health in the Rockies, and lots of, like, for Overdose Prevention Day, I believe Sedona distributed Narcan, stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else?
So we've received a couple of care packages from Sedona, and we've gotten like a little bit of Narcan and testing strips. For me, I just always advocate for what I do, and I always talk about how we are involved in the community and how we basically right now are just doing data collection, and how we I'm just always being very, very just like word of mouth towards my community. That's how I've been involved. Besides the whole just being involved in the group in our actual events, I know that outside of the group in our actual events, I'm always speaking very highly and just being like, we need to get this done, and just figuring out other ways. I know I've actually put a couple people in contact with Sedona for like just different things that I've ran into people that do like they work with like legislators and stuff like that to do like mental health awareness or to get bills run and stuff. And I don't know if they have reached out to Sedona, but I know that I've given Sedona's contact out like multiple times to multiple people, like, let's get this done, hit up my boss. That's what I call her. I'm like, this is my
She's
boss.
an amazing, amazing resource.
Yes.
Anyone else?
Yes.
Okay. The next thing is systems change. As you're talking about legislators and policy work, I do a lot of that with a number of the groups that I work with, because truly the only way we're going to change systems is to be involved in the system from the inside. And so I do a lot of work with the legislators and different policy groups that there are things that are going on. For example, in the last couple of years, there were several organizations that were working on getting a bill passed that would allow people who are undocumented to be eligible to get health insurance in Colorado for the very first time. California has been doing it for a number of years. So a new law was passed that was called the Health Insurance Affordability Enterprise. And now they've renamed it to call it Omni Salud. And so effective November 1st, people who are undocumented can qualify for health insurance through the Connect for Health Colorado Exchange. And so I'm working on that. And part of that work, and the reason that happened, was because partners came together and they were committed to improving the system. Right now, there's going to be a bill on the ballot in November that is going to guarantee free lunch for all children. It came about as part of COVID, and but the federal dollars dried up. So now the several groups are working in the legislature. Well, they did already, and they brought it, and it's going to be on the ballot this fall to see whether or not we want to provide that. And it just is so important because, as we know, sometimes the meals that children have in schools can be the only meal that they may have for the entire day. So those are all things about policy change that we're working on that are really key. And there's just so many. This coming Friday, I'm going to a cafecito group, which is going to have City Council person Jamie Torres and Amanda Sandoval, that are the president and president pro tem of the Denver City Council. And so they're going to be at this event talking to the community on Friday morning. So I get, because I've been involved in community so long, I'm on so many mailing lists and I get so many great opportunities. I even sent one to Sedona today that I thought maybe the youth would be, interested in. So anytime I get things, I will send that out to people that I think, and that's getting more young people like all of you involved, because starting young and continuing this throughout our lives, this is really important. We are at a pivotal point in our lives right now, that there are some terrible things that have happened in the legislature that are going to impact us for many, many years. I was involved in Roe v. Wade in 1979 when it was originally passed, and now I never thought we would be going through what we're going through today. So a lot of things have happened. So it's so important to be involved and be committed to actually improving our systems and improving our communities. The other work is the DEI and anti-racist work with the Colorado Health Equity Coalition. Really, one of the priorities of them is to become an anti-racist organization and to serve as a model for other programs throughout the country. And that is some work that we are all doing. Somebody mentioned public health in the Rockies, and of course, Kory and I will both be there. And in addition to being there and supporting all of you and some of the other things, we're going to be hosting a community engagement event in Summit County to really bring some resources to that community and let them know about the work that we're doing with the Health Equity Coalition, and hopefully, providing some opportunities for people outside the metro area to really be involved in that work as well. So as I said earlier, building trust is the most important thing. In many, many communities of color, there has been lots of mistrust from the government. If you know history about colonization and the Native Americans, I mean, we had, the government showed up and told, brought blankets to the Native Americans thinking that, here we are, we're from the government and we're here to help you. But really the blankets were filled with smallpox, and it was all part of genocide. We have the African American community where you have, different things have happened. You have the Tuskegee Airmen where they were injected with sexually transmitted infections for them to be guinea pigs when they thought something else was going on. So there's been a long history of mistrust from the government. And so when you have people in the community that come together and they show up and show up and show up again, that starts to really build that trust. And Sedona is one of those trusted leaders as a young person working in community. How many years you've already been working? At least 7 years, Sedona?
Yeah, it's been like over 7 years now, and it's been such an honor to like work alongside you and so many other inspiring just leaders who have supported me in this journey. And oftentimes, I've even shown up, along many different paths in my journey, and this has helped me get to where I am today. Meeting people like this and being exposed to these types of events has really been a preventative factor, from the negative path I was going down.
Yeah.
So,
and the the risk and protective factors. And it definitely is a protective factor. And if you aren't a trusted leader in the community, you get somebody to introduce you who is a trusted community leader. When I was the regional health connector in Denver County, I worked with 20 other regional health connectors throughout the state. And so I had built rapport with all of these individuals. So when we went to, and Kory, introduced the idea about doing something in Summit County, I already had connections in some of those areas. And all I had to do was contact Kory gave me the name of a couple of people from this organization. And so I just, I contacted them and said, hey, Kory gave me your information. And then I contacted other people who are the regional health connector for that area up there. And I just started calling people. And so with that introduction from another trusted leader, then obviously they believed that I was a trusted leader, and I was able to really move and do some things in a very short period of time to really work on this event that we're going to host. And those of you who are going there, we are hoping that you're available. I know some of you can't stay all the time, but that you may be able to join us for that event that we're going to host on Wednesday, the 28th of September. And then, as I talked about earlier about volunteering, that's really important. But whenever there's an opportunity for you to be compensated, it is really important that that happens. And so we try really hard to make sure that that's built into all of our budgets, so we can make sure and compensate the people who are doing the work. The next thing is to be involved in committees and coalitions and advisory panels. There's so many different opportunities out there, and there's always, every table that I go to, they say, we need the youth represented, we need youth representation, we need youth representation. So there are so many opportunities. And as I start to continue to work in community, as I hear those opportunities, I definitely will share them with Sedona, and maybe some of you will be interested in some of those opportunities. Do any of you have any questions or comments here before I move on? Because this is really an important piece to talk about in the work that we're all doing collectively.
I love everything, and I'm so glad that I was able to make it to this presentation. Like I said, I've been so busy lately, and I spoke with it to Sedona about just feeling like I want to be involved more. My life has just been very, very, I've just been very overwhelmed. But this is like something I'm super, super passionate about. And for me, I definitely would love to be in contact with you and any events that I can do with or without compensation. Like, compensation obviously is always a good thing. But yeah, I'm very struggling with just like finding my place and where I want to be. I know I'm going to be going back to school here in the next year for a trade, just to have extra money under my belt. But my main thing is saving the youth in my community, and that's why I got a part of this. And I've been a part of it because I've lived these experiences, and I think that's most of us in this group, is we've lived so many ugly experiences in our life.
Yes. And that is also something that is very important, that when we are coming to these committees, these coalitions, these advisory panels, that we have people with lived and living experience who would know better than those who have lived it. I'm sorry, Bree, did I cut you off?
No, not at all. I wanted to let you finish because I know that it gets weird on Zoom and it like kind of glitches sometimes when we talk over each other. So I just definitely wanted to make sure that I let you say your piece for sure, because I appreciate you just coming and speaking to us about all of this and just doing all the work that you've done. Like, you're very much like, you're an amazing woman. I've never met you. I don't think I've ever met you yet, but you're amazing. And that's like what we need. We need the inspiration, and we need to see women and people like you in our community that do it, have done it, and are continuing to do it, because it gives us hope in what we're doing, you know? I get emotional, and here comes crybaby.
So do I, Bree. So do I. Believe you me, so do I. I
literally am crying at every event.
Absolutely, me too. We're right there. Are you going to be at Public Health in the Rockies?
Not this month. I was there last time. We were doing the shared protective risk
Yes,
factors.
yes, I remember that.
Yes, I was there for that one, but I am not going to be able to make it to this one just because this month is really hectic for me.
Yeah,
But I definitely look forward to being at other events and seeing you at other events for sure.
thank you. I would love to meet you in person. Thank you so much.
Of course. Were you at the shared risk conference?
Candy, did you want to say something?
Oh, yes, I did. I just wanted to say, yeah, thank you so much for being here and sharing your light and wisdom. And I'm also Latina and Native American and just resonate a lot with everything you're saying. And I'm going to be at the Public Health in the Rockies, and I will be there on Wednesday. I'm driving. If anyone else needs a ride, I can help with that. But yeah, I wanted to say, if you need any help or any organization, I'm from up in the mountains. I'm from like Vail Valley, but yeah, if there's anything I can do or contribute or help with, let me know, because I really want to just help it be part of that event. And if not just attending, I'm excited for that too. And I'll let the people that I know up in that community know about the event. If there's any type of flyer I can share.
I do have a flyer. Sedona, can you share the flyer with them?
Yes, I will send another email out that includes that as well. And then Stephanie, I do have a quick question, but I'll save it to the end.
Okay, do you want me to go back? Oops, wrong way.
Well, I was just hoping you could just maybe give a little bit of info on like the promotoras and the peer navigators or the peer support for recovery. I would just love for the youth and to hear a little bit more about that and kind of the power and importance of those specifically.
Okay, absolutely. Let me see here. Let's do it on this slide. So as she's talking about some of those opportunities, that's really part of all the networking. There's a group of promotoras that I think, let's see, I showed you earlier. Here we go. Right here, to the right hand, the Promotoras de Esperanza. They're working with an organization that's called Embark, and they have, they're throughout the entire state. And I am working with one of the key leaders, Rica Rodriguez, and she's doing the Denver piece of it. And they have a number of opportunities for people to get involved in their peer recovery through different types of groups. And they also recruit people to train them to be part of the Promotora network and to be able to work in peer recovery. And so they have these and it's not like you have to go to college or something like that. They have their own internal training that they can train you in like 9 months to be a peer navigator, but a promotora. But they're specifically working in peer recovery. But I also am a trained promotora, but my promotora work is in the Promotora de Salud. And I was working with a number of different groups, and we were working with a group that was called Personas Mayores, which are basically the senior citizens, and bringing a lot of services to them that if they are either homebound or if they don't have health insurance or they don't have the funding to pay their copays or to get their medication, and really working with them through several networks. And there's a network of, they use several terms. They'll use conectoras, they'll use promotoras, they'll use navegadores, they'll use community health workers. And so they have different names for them, but in the Latino community specifically, they're using promotoras, conectoras, and navegadoras. And so I work with a group from Montbello that are working with the Personas Mayores. And then there's a group in Sheridan, and then there's Latina promotoras, and there's promotoras that are working at Lifespan Local in Westwood. There's promotoras that are working in Revision. And so there's different promotoras that are working on different topics. Some work in early childhood education. Some are working in building in the environment. There's promotoras from Crea Results, and they're doing environmental work. And then there's promotoras that are doing healthy eating and active living and helping people grow gardens. So there's a lot of different promotora groups that are out there. And almost all of them have their own internal training that could be from a couple of months to 4 or 5 months. And then they have opportunities for people to work in community in whatever area that really is appealing to them. And so part of that is the whole networking thing and really working, as you can see, your interests, what are happening, connecting people, business, marketing, relationships, all these things that are part of networking. And so earlier I stated that I belong to like all these different email blasts. And so I get so much information from so many groups, and I get to pick and choose which ones that I think are really great or that I want to work with. And then the rest of them I may forward to other people in my network because maybe I don't have the time or I'm not interested, but somebody else does. You have your friends and your colleagues that you work with, and you're saying your boss, which is Sedona, and that she has a lot of friends and colleagues that are on her email blast list. You join different types of clubs. There's clubs in the schools, there's clubs in churches, there's clubs in community centers. There's all different clubs and events, and being part of those. And each time you're a piece of that, that helps to build your self-esteem, your self-worth. It gives you, a lot of capability of being able to talk in public, because a lot of people really feel public speaking. And so that gives you all kinds of different opportunities to be able to work on yourself while you're contributing to community. There's people that are in the fitness area that are doing, things like yoga, and, at the community centers that are doing fitness. There's internet groups. There's a group that are Toastmasters. There's bilingual Toastmasters. There's different types of groups that you can work with in community. So these are all ways to get out there, to share your interests, and for you to be able to build your skill set in working with people. So Kory's going to talk to you more about that too when she comes on. Sedona, was there any other things about the promotoras? I can connect you with some of the promotora groups if you like.
Yeah, that would be great. I was just thinking that, especially with the peer recovery, that would really resonate with some of the goals that we've been talking about as a group. So I would love to just you put a note on that and follow up about that. But this is such, valuable and, great information. So just loving all of this. And then, also with the fitness class, I actually just started a weekly Zumba, here in the new neighborhood that I moved to. And so far, it's been a great way to just build connections and be in community, at the rec center, and just getting to know everybody. So yeah, this is just, beautiful and powerful information.
Yeah. Janet? Oh, that was Janet. That's Sedona under Janet. I'm sorry. You're coming up as Janet, Sedona, when you went out and reconnected. So, okay. All right. So then I want to talk about some marketing and promotions, which is different than being in community. But, we all have to market ourselves, promote ourselves, all the things that are happening. And earlier I stated that all of my contacts that I've had so far and my projects have all been by word of mouth. You know what I did when I was laid off from my job and I started my business? I kept my email list that I had from my old job, and I sent out an email blast, not actually a blast. I sent it to each individual, and I said, I'm no longer with this. I'm now have my own business, and I had created like a one pager, like a resume. I said, these are the things that I'm doing, and please keep me in mind. And before I knew it, I had 9 projects that I was working on. So, that was part of what I did, promoting myself, and marketing was creating that piece of material. And before we conclude, I'm going to pull up my website. And Sedona, if I start going too long, you let me know. Oh, looks like I'm going too long. But social media, websites, and logo design, once you have your own business, it's really important to have those things. And you can find people that will do them for very reasonable. I mean, people were telling me they wanted $3,000 and $4,000 to do a website, and I connected with some people who did it for a lot less than that. But LinkedIn, and then being sponsors, and then there's paid media, business cards. Sedona, how long do I have? I started a little late. Do you want? There you go, Sedona. Where are you, Sedona?
I'm fine with you taking as much time as you need,
Okay.
Stephanie.
Okay. All right.
Sorry about that. I had to deal with something really fast. But yeah, we are, still pretty good on time. So however much longer you need, Stephanie, is great. Sorry.
Right. And then I will give you all the slides, so you'll be able to have them. So the next things is fundraising, and we all have to have funding to do what we're doing. Like I said, when I had my first community health and wellness expo that I had a zero budget, I went to my friends, my families, and my colleagues. And not only are we talking about dollars, but I started recruiting volunteers. So I mean that human capital is significant in fundraising. And I had people donate, like I said earlier, people donated, like I said, food, and people donated money. And so a zero project turned into a really, really successful project that we served over 300 people in the community. And then you can identify external funders. I mean, the Denver Foundation does some really great work in community, and a couple of other groups are doing some grants for community members, and you don't have to be an organization to do that. And then you find sponsors, or you become sponsors. Like I said, I sponsored like 6 or 7 groups this year, and I can sponsor from as little as $250 up to $750, which is in my budget. I sponsored ACT for $750. I sponsored a few others. I'm sponsoring the one in Summit County for $500. So I get to choose who I want to sponsor because I know my budget. And then there's grants. A lot of the grants require that you be a 501c3 or you have a fiscal sponsor, but those are available too. You can start your own 501c3 or you can get a fiscal sponsor. I actually have a fiscal sponsor because I'm an LLC. And so I can be able to get some grants that are required to have a 501c3, which is a nonprofit status, and or a fiscal sponsor. And then you ask, and you ask again. And don't be afraid to hear no. For every no, there's a yes. When I do fundraising and I go to places like Sam's Clubs and Walmart and Target and King Soopers, they all have these budgets for this. And so the only time I've received no from them is if they've already committed X number of dollars to that particular month. And so like at Sam's Club, they have this binder that you take your flyer and you tell them what you're doing. And if you ask them, they look into see if if they have any specific openings for that month. And then if so, and they don't give you a lot, they give you like a $50 Sam's Club card or a $25, but you can give those as giveaways, as door prizes. You don't have to use those for other things. And then you ask other people for other funding. But I'm telling you, when I first started, I was so afraid to hear no. And I took it personally and, oh my gosh, I'm what kind of fundraiser am I? Everybody's saying no. And then people started saying yes. And when you survey people about why they give, they say the number one reason is because somebody asked. So it's really important to not take no personally and to know that for every no, you will receive a yes. So it's really important. Any questions, comments there? I'm looking at the chat. Okay. So now we're talking about special events planning. This is like really one of the things I love. This is the flyer for the event we're going to do in Summit County. And, you identify a committee, and it can be as little as 3 people or 2 people. And then you find a venue and you request donations. You schedule regular meetings. Kory and Sedona and I are on our own little committee that we're working on this event. And then you create a flyer. You can start a flyer early on, but if you don't have a venue, you can't really create the flyer until you have the venue. So as you can see on this flyer here at the bottom, these are the sponsors that Kory's group is sponsoring. I'm sponsoring the Health Equity Coalition and the Colorado Public Health Association. So we're going to have entertainment, we're going to have resource, we're going to have food, we're going to have face painting, we're going to have activities. So all these things we're going to have at this event. And Kory, like I said, is one of the sponsors as well. And you decide what activities, you create a budget. And it can be from as little as or as large. We had a budget to start with this, but it wasn't enough for everything because the food by itself is going to be close to $900. And so, we had to, so then I said, I'm going to sponsor and donate 500. And Kory says, I'm going to sponsor. So here we are. We had started with 2 sponsors and now we have 4 sponsors. Plus we have these amazing community partners that are going to be doing things as well. And then most important of all of this is have fun. And it makes it so much easier. It's hard work, believe you me, But when you get there and you have so much fun and you see people laughing and having a great time and kids eating and getting their faces painted, oh my gosh, it's just so rewarding. You just feel so good about the work that you're doing that you end up having fun. And so that's the most important piece of all of it, is to have fun. Do Kory or Sedona want to say anything about this, or anybody on the call want to ask any questions about special event planning?
Well, real quick, I just want to say that this was amazing, Stephanie. And as far as like this event in particular, I think we'll have a little bit of time at the end to kind of go through and talk about the different like roles and responsibilities that the youth can like really help and support with for this event. So I'm really excited about that. But it's just a beautiful opportunity, and to see the way it has really come together has, you know, really been inspiring. And I'm super excited to finally see, you know, a community event during this, you know, time of public health in the Rockies, where they've been talking about equity and, you know, authentic community engagement, and we're, you know, finally really showing what that can look like, you know, and changing, you know, the way it's traditionally been done. So, you know, huge shout out there. Would love to hear if anyone has questions. And I know we have, I think it's either Michaela or Megan working on our flyer for the donations as well. So that's just another powerful way that the youth leaders are being mobilized to really, you know, get this experience and support in different ways. So yeah, Kory, do you want to add anything?
No, I feel like this covers so much of it. You're learning from the pro though, so I don't know if I can add a ton.
A lot of years experience, So that concludes it. We do have, you know, the formal Q&A that if anyone wants to, I went backwards. Okay.
So, do you guys have like specific training opportunities that we would be able to attend or anything like that, to where we are able to like expand on, whether it be do you guys have any like training sessions for that, or would you be willing to do that outside of this?
Well, here's what I'll tell you. In some of the work that I do with like the Blueprint to End Hunger, we are in the process of starting like a leadership academy, so people in community can learn these types of things. And so I would be happy to share that with you. And or I have one of the people that I work with, she is called Key Strategies for Business Success. Every last Monday of the month, she provides a free 2-hour training on how to start your own business and covers all of that stuff. And so there are definitely free opportunities out there. And if there's something that Sedona specifically, if after you guys, ladies, talk about this, there's something specific that you want to talk about, I would be more than happy to do that. But I wanted just to give you a lot of things today, just to think about. And then if specific things that come up after that, absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
And just really quick to add to that as well, there are some different, you know, training opportunities, and I'm usually, you know, just forwarding emails to you all, but I will definitely, like, if maybe we want to start a list of, you know, things in particular that you might want, like via our group text or, you know, something like that, I can definitely try to relay that information that way. And then there's a bunch of really, you know, great organizations that, you know, are also on our website and that a lot of you are, you know, a part of. You know, I know you're all connected to different groups. So they're usually also sending out, you know, different opportunities as well. So such as like Rise Above, they're, you know, currently hiring, you know, more youth leaders and doing some different like engagement. And so different things like that and different trainings. So Bree, I'll definitely continue to like send that, and would love for you to get connected to Stephanie to like, you know, stay updated on that. And I also took the business training and it was amazing. She is a chingona as well, of course.
I could probably get her to do it for you guys.
Is that the one we did, Sedona?
Yes. Oh, Candy. That was amazing. I love that training.
It was so helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. And so in closing, all of you know who Maya Angelou, she's passed on now, but I just love this piece which says, people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And to me, that is so important.
Thank you so much for your time today, Stephanie. You are amazing, and I really appreciate everything you've brought to this meeting today. I definitely want to stay connected, and any opportunities that there are, obviously you will be in contact with Sedona, but I definitely would like to be in contact as well.
Absolutely. And any of you who are going to public health in the Rockies, I will be there. We can have time to have lunch, we can chat, we can come together for that Wednesday evening event. And I really, really would really just appreciate and enjoy that time that I could have with any one of you. And I will tell you today, you know, I didn't get a chance to say, you know, what I was really kind of happy about, but today as a result of a couple of weeks ago, I was on a panel for the Colorado Hospital Association talking about health equity. And one of the people from National Jewish Hospital reached out to me today, and she wants me to help them to start a community advisory panel and for National Jewish Hospital, and really help them with their community engagement work. So I feel really happy about that. Something that I get, a new project that I get to start working on. So I'm very, very happy about that. And I will tell you, in 2018, when I was 62 years old, I finished my second master's degree. So education is ongoing forever. And don't ever feel like if you didn't accomplish something today that it can't be accomplished tomorrow. Because I'm telling you, I am living proof that as an elder, I went back to school, I got my second master's degree, and it has propelled me to the next level of my work. So I would strongly encourage all of you wonderful young lady leaders of our future to continue to do those kinds of things and never give up. And I never use the word failure. I use learning experience. So I want to close with that. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much, Stephanie. That was so powerful, and I'm so grateful that you were able to just be here and, you know, share your wisdom and, you know, your.
I'm crying too, Bree. I'm sorry.
Oh, I love it. Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you.
Okay, that was a terrible idea to say. I can go after that. Oh, I mean, truly, everybody, you are literally learning from the best. Stephanie, you are so incredible. And Sedona, I mean, I tell each of you this every single time I'm with you, but I learn from you every single time I'm with you. And it's just so beautiful to kind of witness all of this, really all of this experience, like transferring. Watching that happen is really incredible. And I love being a part of it. So thank you so much for everything that you're willing to share and teach. And I'm listening. I hope that everybody else is too.
Thank you, Kory.
Yeah. This piece is going to feel a little different. And I promise you at the very end, I do have one visual that links you to how to get connected to the Health Equity Coalition. And I also will be sharing a couple of things from the CPHA website. Being in this space, I want to just explicitly say, I now consider you a part of my network, and I hope that you also consider me part of yours. And that is because of trusted community leaders like Stephanie and Sedona and inviting us together in this space. One of the most beautiful things that I have been witnessing more and more and more of is that the transfer of trusting relationships and how that can truly just catapult everything that we're doing through reciprocal relationship. And this, us being here in this moment right now is evidence of that. There are so many different reciprocal pieces that have happened to bring us into this space together. And I'll share a little bit more about my background. I can't even, the career that you just saw is just it can't get better than that. So there's a couple of key things about the work that I'm doing right now that I feel is important in the context of kind of networking. And one of the things Sedona and Stephanie and I talked a little bit about this, was the kind of networking tips and tricks, and kind of this goal, ultimately, for those of you who are going to public health in the Rockies, how do you make connections at a conference like Public Health in the Rockies? And so I'm reflecting on that and was thinking, what kind of connections are you looking for? And so that's a real question. I want you to think about what kind of connections you might be looking for. And if you're not going to Public Health in the Rockies, then think about it in the broader context of your career. What is of interest to you? Because in just a bit, I'm going to ask you for that, because I want to know what that is. And that's a part of networking. That's a part of that reciprocity, is when I know that Stephanie is really interested in DEI training and is interested in this population and is all of the things that she shared, then I know when I hear of something that aligns with that mission, that aligns with that vision, that aligns with that interest, then I'm like, okay, I'm going to forward her this email, or I'm going to send this. So the more that I know about you all and your connections, the better I can be, as I'll also be at Public Health in the Rockies, and then hopefully other events that are happening. Then I can be a better networker. I can be a better connection for all of you. So be thinking of what kind of connection are you looking for? And I'll kind of jump back to a little bit about what I'm doing, especially in the field of public health. So I'm here today representing the Health Equity Coalition. I'm currently the Associate Director of the Health Equity Coalition. It's not a role I actually was really looking for. I had been participating in the coalition for several years, and the outgoing senior director, Ashley Gallegos, who is now in California, asked if I would, because we needed somebody from within the coalition to lead it. And I can tell you right now, it has been one of the most fun I've ever had volunteering, and sometimes the most challenging. It really is this opportunity to stretch, because we are transforming an organization right now. And what me being an associate director for the Health Equity Coalition means is I am a board member for the Colorado Public Health Association. And I had been a board member for one other nonprofit, but this was by far the biggest organization. It's a statewide organization, and it is a mover and a shaker right now in terms of the public health field in Colorado, especially when it comes to equity work and pursuing being an anti-racist organization in the field of public health. So we're really wanting to lead that space in the field of public health. And that is intense. It's really intense to be mid-career and working with people who are epic, just epic, brilliant, so much different community engagement experience, so much different policy work, different finance experience. And so to have a working relationship, have a team together, because it is a working board, it's been a stretch for me, but it has been a huge connection for my personal network. And it's fun because I had already been engaged in the coalition. I have those relationships, and a lot of coalition leaders are seeing the opportunity that we have to really influence an entire organization. And so a lot of coalition members are now either currently on the board or are on the ballot to be on the board, including Sedona and Stephanie. So that's an association. It's an association that is really connecting public health, and typically in public health, when you might see data about public health workforce, they're specifically talking about governmental public health workers. So a lot of people who are doing especially public health equity work are not necessarily counted in those numbers. And so we're wanting to build awareness around what the public health workforce really looks like and advocate for them, counting and funding. There's a lot of different federal funds that go specifically to state or like large local public health agencies or governmental public health agencies. But so much equity work happens outside of governmental public health. And so there's these opportunities to build a lot of bridges, build a lot of relationships. And that's one of the avenues that I've personally taken to build my network. So one of the tips I would offer you is to think about what kind of connections you want to make and where are those people gathering. For me, I really wanted to be around an organization or invest in an organization that was committed to anti-racist practices and was committed to really advocate for health equity and public health. And so this is an avenue, this is a space that aligns with those kind of overarching goals that I have. What I also do for work, I am also an independent consultant, and I do burnout prevention coaching for specifically emerging leaders in public health. So the people who are signing up to do public health right now in the midst of a global pandemic and racism as a public health crisis and climate change and climate crisis, all of these, the people who are saying, I want to be a part of really focusing on public health and how we do that. I want to work with those people and support those people not burning out because we've got a long road ahead of us. And they're amazing people. It's the best network. It's incredible. And so I was at the University of Colorado and was actually asked, because of one of those projects that I managed called Expo Colorado, Extension for Community Health Outcomes, by the National Network of Public Health Institutes to do some consulting and build capacity in their organization nationally to do ECHO at the national level. And that changed my life. I didn't know it at the time. I didn't go to that business. I wrote down, start your own business. I need to take that class right now because I did. I did because somebody asked me. So Stephanie's kind of stories around like being asked for work, I share in that. Like once you really do show up and people remember how you made them feel, I think that's really important because there's so many of the tasks or things to do, but when you can be really present with somebody and share your story or share a piece of it or get curious about theirs, it evokes feeling, it evokes this memory, and it's pretty incredible to watch how that can influence a career, relationships, and especially an entire network. So one other point that I want to hear about, so I want to pause in just a moment about the kind of connections that you're looking to make, but also knowing who you are and why you are where you are. So for those of you who are going to public health in the Rockies, it's really important for you to recognize, like, what do I want out of this? Am I exploring public health? So you all asked about a training. Hopefully this year, CPHA will be bringing back a program called Explore Public Health. Explore Public Health was designed by Suzuhoshi Misaki, who is one of the first people of color on the CPHA board, and that was not very long ago. And so really being invested in kind of introducing more formal parts of public health before maybe pursuing a degree in that specific space. There are some undergraduate public health degrees. Stephanie was mentioning a master's in public health. So there's a whole trajectory. I personally studied health promotion as a bachelor's degree. Then I did a graduate certificate in public health to kind of explore, do I want to spend more of that money on as a master's in public health, and then did go on to achieve my master's in public health, but then kept pursuing more focused education, which for me was in coach training. And that is just, that's my heart. I believe that people have the answers inside of them. And I feel really committed to asking the questions that draw out those answers and then supporting and celebrating as people move forward in that space. So that's kind of a little bit of my personal trajectory in the field of public health. And hopefully CPHA will be offering that training in 2023. So it's just a little bit of a seed planting here. And then if it does in turn, and if it does indeed launch, again, Sedona will definitely have the information to share with you all. Let's see. Okay, I've got time. I'm like dancing around a couple of things. So one other piece I think I wanted to name in the context of kind of the story of my own journey is taking the risks. I loved hearing that some of you are like really wrestling with different decisions and what's happening or going for it, that scarcity mindset. It's so important to kind of recognize as that is showing up, because things are happening. There's a lot of stuff happening. And even a week ago, I mentioned the National Network of Public Health Institutes. I've been working on this health equity initiative, and there was an opportunity to showcase, local equity work that's taking place. And being a part of the coalition, we made a couple phone calls, had some texts. It's a lot of more informal communication than you might specifically see in an institution or in an organization. And being okay with that, or knowing what your boundaries are around that, is going to be really important, especially with some of that community engagement work, is kind of knowing like where am I showing up? If you're interested in like real authentic community engagement work, it's all the time. Wherever you are, you have that, it's community engagement. It's authentically showing up as you are, and showing up and building relationships. And to build relationships, you begin sharing a piece of yourself. You begin receiving pieces of other people. How are you going to hold those stories? What does that mean? And recognizing what that means in the context of what you are doing for work, for career. So there's a lot of different pieces to be thinking about as you head into making decisions about either career or networking, or thinking of that as, who am I prioritizing? That's what you heard such clarity with Stephanie. She knows where she's spending energy, who she's investing in, who she's willing to say yes to, who she's going to say no to. And those lessons are so important. So paying attention to the lessons that you're learning right now, how people make you feel, or how you feel around other people. I changed my making people feel things, and it's real. How are you feeling listening to what I have to say? Is that make you more curious, or is it something that's like, oh, maybe I won't engage in longer relationship with Kory, but that's okay, because it's really important for you to know who you are, what you're bringing to the table too, and knowing that you have value. You have tremendous, tremendous value. And I feel like both Stephanie and I wouldn't be in this space today not committed to ensuring you all have value. The wisdom you already have inside of you is valuable. And the more you do show up, the more that you can deliver in different ways, the more that might be asked of you. And so being really willing to kind of check in with yourself in an ongoing way. And that is definitely a tip that I have to offer for public health in the Rockies. It can be a really overwhelming experience. I personally identify mostly as an introvert. I love showing up to meet up with people or go to public health in the Rockies is one of my favorite weeks when I'm reconnecting with people, and I get exhausted. So I ensure to myself, if I don't have the energy to go to a session, it's okay. It's okay. If I prefer to sit a session out and just go sit outside and have a one-on-one conversation with Stephanie, I will always prefer to do that. Then I will, especially if she's willing to do that too. So there's some flexibility, or for yourself, I want this to be a space where it's like, there's going to be a really intense schedule. If you haven't already looked at the website, a tip, look at the website, Public Health in the Rockies. I'll add that into the chat too, if you haven't seen it, but check out what's already there. And based on those connection pieces, maybe we can proactively find where are the sessions that you want to go to based on who you want to meet, based on what organization do they work at, what kind of position do they hold, what kind of work are they doing. And there's a lot of different things. Public Health in the Rockies is all kinds of public health. So really doing some of that pre-work, that homework. For me, a typical routine is just looking through the agenda once and seeing what jumps out at me, because it really is something or someone, a presenter that I know I want to connect with, or a topic that I'm really curious about, or I know I need some strategic connections in that organization. And so I kind of glance through based on those kinds of priorities. For me at Public Health in the Rockies this year, my connection priorities are the Health Equity Coalition. So we have a lot of coalition members who are going to be at Public Health in the Rockies, and a lot of the CPHA board of directors and the folks that are on the ballot, which on the ballot we have a lot of coalition members. And so I want to share the Public Health in the Rockies, or the CPHA website really quick, because I want to make sure you all know where to go, because it's not the best website. So that's like one thing that we can work on as an organization, but it has what it needs. It has the basic information. So coloradopublichealth.org is the CPHA website. Right under the about is the board. Okay. Jason Vitello is our current president. If you have not heard Jason speak, you're in for a treat at Public Health in the Rockies. And I'm really excited to share that Jana Behrens, who is a close colleague and friend of mine at the national level, who does a lot of kind of health equity speaking, will be the keynote this year. And I'm so excited. If you aren't going to Public Health in the Rockies, I'm working really diligently with the Public Health in the Rockies committee to try and make sure we at least have the recordings available for folks after the conference. So you want to take a look at who's on the board maybe of this organization. This is just an example. So you might be doing this for any of the other organizations that might be going to Public Health in the Rockies. This might be a way to see who's influencing an organization. So I like to point this board out, one, because I'm on it, and hopefully Stephanie and Sedona will also be on it. So just as a way to kind of begin to build a picture of already a connection and a network that you're a part of. And that makes it very easy for us to introduce you, which is another tip for Public Health in the Rockies or anywhere else, is if you know somebody, like Stephanie mentioned, like even in the community engagement work, when it comes to networking, to not be afraid to ask for a connection. So if any of you wanted to be introduced to Juan Roberto, I would be happy to introduce you if I know that that's one of your goals. If anybody's interested in meeting Robert Franklin II, actually, I need to make sure they are aware of that. See, I notice little things all the time, and you have to mention and see what's kind of going on. So if you wanted to meet Robert, if you wanted to meet Sarah Lampe is the current CEO of Trailhead, so another large organization that supports some of that Colorado blueprint. So this is an opportunity to kind of get a sense of who might be there. And this is definitely one example of a board and different people or influencers who are influencing state public health. They're influencing different policies. There's a policy committee, there's different finance and support. So when you also mention free trainings, one of the opportunities to learn is more hands-on learning, and getting involved in any of those committees or even the coalition is an opportunity to do some of that learning, which is really tried to avoid saying it's a resume builder, because I am very much committed to working diligently to support this organization, especially moving beyond uncompensated labor. Over here is the Health Equity Coalition. So I'm going to give you a quicker way to get involved if you're curious about it. But if you ever forget, coloradopublichealth.org, and this says a little bit more about the coalition and how to get engaged, is this link right here. This, again, I'll put this link up in just a little bit, but wanted to share that if you're curious even about what health equity is, there are some videos and talking tools on the website as well. This was a special project that we worked on early 2020 or through 2020. The coalition kind of, we went through what the rest of the world went through. And so I feel like there's some momentum coming back. And it's just a really beautiful time to reconnect with folks and really stay connected to at least what's important to us, to really working towards achieving equity in health. So that is a lot of stuff and not a lot of visuals, but I want to come back to asking a question of what kind of connections are you all looking for at Public Health in the Rockies or beyond?
I can start. So due to school, I'm only able to make it to our session, and then I have to get back to classes. But I'm really excited to, referencing back to that Maya Angelou quote, make people feel like they're able to talk to me, email me, get in contact. I love just talking about public health. It's my major, so I'm definitely passionate about it. And I just want to be able to make a good impression, meet a lot of new people, and mostly have fun with kind of trying to create positive change.
Awesome. So especially if you are going to be there for a small amount of time, we'll want to really maximize that time. So it's even, one of the ways that I'm working to do that already is, encouraging people to go to this session, right? And so there might be an opportunity, if you have a sense that people are going to be there, to reach out to them, invite them to your session as a way to kind of bring people to you rather than you have to be pursuing everybody else. And so if there are folks that you see on that list that you're like, I'd really be interested in having this conversation, you can kind of tag some of us in to say, is there any way we can get them even to outside of the presentation door? So when you're finished, you can have that conversation. So that's one thing I would recommend is trying to be really proactive about what kind of connections you might be interested in making, and then letting us know and helping us kind of rally around making that happen for you and with you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Yeah, this is Michaela. I think if I could make more connections within the public health field, like that would be really great. For lack of better.
Awesome. I think I heard you kind of say even like getting more connected to community. And if you did, there are a lot of sessions that will explicitly name community engagement in their title of their session or their abstract. So kind of going through the agenda with that kind of, and I've literally printed it off and like highlighted, like, where am I seeing the words that matter and focusing in on that space. Because one of the things I like to explicitly name with conferences is you're going to miss something. Try not to miss the someone because presentations can be kind of recorded, or you can request to like hear or request the slides. Most of them are going to be, you can have access access to, but really knowing the who and the why, and then what you're potentially interested in learning about. So even having kind of a question that you're really interested in, like, what are some of the key tactics that you have used in community engagement, or what was the biggest challenge to this project, and as ways to kind of continue learning. But people who are doing community engagement work are the people to really connect with as you want to get engaged. So even just being connected to Stephanie, it's like you kind of got the whole state covered in a way. And that's really important. That's like a really, really important awareness when you're really you only have so much time, you only have so much to give. So really recognizing, like, who are you interested in investing in as well? Because again, networking is about reciprocal relationship too. And so really recognizing what your goals are and how that aligns will be helpful, in my opinion. Thanks, Ari.
Also, utilizing the meals to connect with people is amazing. So maybe we could all connect, like have each other's phone numbers and text each other and say, here I am, it's breakfast, connect. And then we can connect and we meet more people. And then by lunch, we meet more people. We can connect you with other people. But during the mealtime is amazing to be able to get to know people.
Truly. Yep. Great advice. What other goals are out there?
So for me, I won't be physically present there, but my goals in general through getting connected and just expanding on my network through the coalition, it's just getting as much education and just learning and growing as much as possible on the topics of holistic health, spirituality, just creating safe space for the Black and Brown community. I want to be able to excel and grow as much as possible in those aspects so that I can contribute to my community as much as possible individually outside of the coalition. So that's like my main goal, is to be able to find help in my own growth and healing process so I can help my others, because I have so many kids in my community that I would just want to take care of and help and be there for, and all of these things like holistic health, physical activity, spirituality is just so much, there's just so much importance to that with our healing and becoming better, and our mental health, and also substance prevention. So
yeah, awesome. Thank you for mentioning that. Sedona, I don't know if you have reached out to Soul yet with Righteous Rage, but I think that immediately comes to mind, some of the retreats that they've been putting on to get connected. And I think that's just one thing that pops to mind. So it's really, again, it's very helpful to hear these kind of goals, because that's how really intentional networking is done. It's not just this like, I'm going to meet as many people and get as many business cards as I can. It's very focused on what are your interests, what's your vision, what are you trying to accomplish, and really thinking about your broader vision, what that looks like. One of the things I fairly regularly offer, it's kind of been on a pause for the summer, is a free visioning workshop. And I usually focus it on like visioning a life beyond burnout, because I specifically work on that burnout prevention, but I'll make sure to share that so it gets kind of connected to this group. But really having a sense of like, what does this look like for myself, for my community, for who's involved, and all of those details really matter, and being able to communicate and ask folks for, and let them know how they can help, like, or what you need. I think there's just these general spaces. I ask for so much. And I love that it was on Stephanie's slides. It's like, ask. And I ask for connections. I ask for time. As you know, typically in like different spaces, especially corporate spaces, I get really bold and I ask for one of my biggest asks that I couldn't believe I actually got it. There were two things this last year. One was a private partnership with a company called Givitas. So it's kind of a startup. And hopefully we'll be able to utilize that in the coalition of this this for reciprocity, like a way to kind of ask and receive for different things. And And, they charge organizations like amounts of money, and it's just, this is who we are. This is what we want to do. We had our little committee. We came, we asked for what we needed, and they said yes. Asking for big speakers. So there's just some things that it's like, because of a network, because of different connections, you never really know what will happen. And so those relationships and building that trust that Stephanie mentioned, it really, really can go a long ways, because you never know who the person that you have a trusted relationship with, who they know and who they know. And I love, that's something that Sedona and I and Stephanie and I have been like working in these different spaces. Is just like, well, why not? Let's just ask and see what happens. And seeing how many opportunities, we get no's, but we get a lot of yeses too. And I think especially when you start to think about creative solutions, and community is full of creative solutions, you never know what will happen. Anybody else want to share what kind of connections are you looking for, or what are some of the things that you're excited about?
Kory, can I just bring up my my website while you're finishing talking, and just so they can look at it real quickly?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Beautiful. Stephanie, this is so great.
See the event we're having right there on my webpage.
Right there.
Yes, it looks so good, Stephanie. I love your website.
Yeah, testimonials of people that I've worked with. My brother who recently passed away. I did in memory of him. And then just like about us, one of my indigenous brothers, that's a danza, and then gives history. And this, I want you to know about my name of my company. When I was working with some amazing indigenous warrior women, they gave me the name Blazing Cloud Woman. And that was the genesis for the name of my company. So
much.
Yeah, and then there's just a bunch of, I have a lot of events and things and photos of some of the events that I've done. And so, okay. I just want to show you because I told you I was going to show you earlier.
I love it. I hope you shared it in the chat too. Thank you. Okay. We've got about just over 10 minutes left. I wanted to check in and see if there are any other tips or tricks that you are specifically looking for with the networking pieces. I do that, I weave things in. So hopefully you caught some of those kind of key spaces. It is recorded, so we can kind of check back and see if there are any pieces. The sun is going down, so that's why I'm getting, the light is changing in my office a lot. I think I get really white teeth when this. So one exercise that I don't know if we have a time for, but is kind of thinking of just 3 sentences that really describe you. So who you are, anything you want people to know about you, kind of right off the bat, and what brought you to public health in the Rockies or wherever you're going. So just having that space of like knowing this is why I'm here, this is what I'm doing, that comes up a lot, I think, especially at conferences and especially at meals, having that, this is who I am, this is what brought me to public health in the Rockies, and this is what I'm looking for, this is what I'm interested in, this is what I'm curious about. If you are having a connection that you've kind of arranged intentionally. When I say that, some of the things that I do is if I know that there are certain people in, looking forward to seeing you too, Ari. If there are certain people I know I want to connect with at Public Health in the Rockies, I usually reach out to them before. Within these next couple of weeks, really kind of letting them know, I'd love to catch a meal with you. Or I'd love to go for a walk with you, or I'd love to make a connection. So it can be really broad, but just kind of exploring. And that might feel a little awkward if you haven't met folks before, but because it's public health in the Rockies, you can use things like, hey, I saw that you were presenting up there. I'm really curious about their work. Is there, or your work, is there any interest that are you going to the 5K in the morning? Or are you interested in grabbing breakfast at this time? Here's my number. Usually phone numbers are a typical way that I at least communicate at conferences. If you're comfortable with that, that might be an option. So it's just a little something to like be preparing, be thinking about. One challenge that I'm going to leave you with, and I'm going to share the coalition, the easiest way to get connected into the coalition, but to meet maybe 3 different CPHA board members, or future those who are on the ballot. Even having a meal with Stephanie can count as one. You've got your 3 right here if you really want to do that, but really kind of challenging yourself to kind of put yourself out there a little bit. And because of the connections that we have, you can ask, this is somebody that I'm really interested in connecting with. Would you be willing to be that bridge? And so getting really used to asking for connections, I think, is one of the biggest things for me that's helped in my career is I've asked for them, but then I've also followed through. And I go back to people that I can trace a lot of my network to very specific people. And I always thank them. I'm like, you connected me into so many different spaces. And they're like, actually, you followed up, like you actually did the follow through with the connection. And so I think that's another piece, is it's not just about kind of recognizing that there might be a connection to be made, asking for connections, but then really following through. And then you have your in. Then there's that opportunity to build your own relationship with somebody. And from a connector standpoint, I love it when I see that. It really takes it's like, I think you two would be great connecting. When I see that become its own relationship, it's just the coolest thing. So that's kind of the exercise that I'd leave you with, is having kind of a 3-sentence, like, know who you are, know what brought you to public health in the Rockies, and what is it that your ask is? What are you curious about? What are you interested in knowing more about? What do you maybe are interested in from them, whether it's meeting after public health in the Rockies, having a follow-up conversation, asking them to come present at this coalition. There's a lot of different things that you can be creative about at this point. And I say, like, you've got certain cards throughout your life. If you have the youth card or the student card, like, use it, use it, because hopefully it never goes away, because we're all lifelong learners. But there are just seasons of life where it truly is easier, because you're in a different stage of life, to get time with people, to learn about what's out there, and really do that in ways that connect the who you are, the feelings of who you are, so that they can remember you. So I'm going to share my screen really fast. This is a sticker you will see at Public Health in the Rockies. I've been trying to bring it in, because it's just easier to do that, as just to kind of identify who can answer at least questions about the Health Equity Coalition. So it's just going to be a little sticker on folks. If you want to scan, if you don't want to be awkward and go up to Robert Franklin II and put your phone next to the sticker on a shirt, then sign it out, fill it out now. Those are some different ways to get involved in the coalition. It's kind of long, it's a long form, so it might be something you want to set aside, but we're trying to share a little bit more about different ways to get involved. And you all mentioned, different marketing or communications. There's a lot of different ways to support this right now. This link is specifically for ways to volunteer right now. We are kind of rolling out exploring a trusted community leader nomination process for compensating folks for their time. So we're working on a lot of fundraising and working on different opportunities to ensure compensation for people. So everything on this form right now is awareness, and it does link to different volunteer opportunities. And there are a lot of other things, I believe, coming down the pipeline. And there might be a lot of opportunities to get compensated for different work. So once that kind of happens, I think Sedona and Stephanie will be a part of that process, hopefully, like defining a little bit more what that looks like. But that's definitely the best first step, is filling out the interest form, and we can work to get you all connected in any way that you are interested. Roles, Summit County, that's the last piece I had. Some things to be thinking about if you are going to go to that event. We'd love to get you really connected and engaged. A couple of things we've thought of in a group is, being available at the table to kind of check folks in and get them connected. We might have some group process pieces that we could use help setting up. I think we are going to be serving food. So we have a buffet, but we are going to be looking to serve some food, I think. So helping with that, that's a really great way for people to see your face. Like, everybody will see you if you're serving food. I love serving food. And potentially do some facilitation. Depending on your larger goals, there might be some spaces to do some speaking or practice some of that in a smaller group. So those are some things that I was thinking about just to plant the seeds. But Sedona and Stephanie, I don't know if there's anything else you want to name related to ways that they might be involved at the event.
Yeah, I think that's great, Kory. And I'll definitely follow up with like a list of those opportunities. So you all can kind of, maybe sign up and we can just begin the planning for that. So we'll definitely follow back up on that. And also, want to shout out, just the support that the youth have provided in just like brainstorming, how these things are going to come together, helping with the donations flyer, and just, different things like that. So you guys are amazing, and just know that there are other opportunities as well to really, be involved in this event and, see this in action. Stephanie, I'll pass it to you if you have any last things to say. And I would love to just hear maybe a reflection just from everyone really fast before we do, close out, whether that's, a word or something that jumped out to you throughout this meeting tonight. But yeah, I would love to just give everyone the chance to share something before we close out.
While they're thinking, Sedona, I'll make a list of the slots available for that night, and I'll send that to you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Stephanie. And yeah, I would love, since we have just about 2 minutes, if everyone wants to think of their kind of word or phrase, or even like a sentence that, stuck out to you tonight, we'll just go and we can kind of popcorn it around. So, something that really stuck out to me is just both the inspiration from Stephanie and Kory, the power in creating trusted relationships and reciprocal relationships. And I'm gonna go ahead and popcorn it over to Estella.
I guess my one word would be community, and actually probably like inspiration too. Thank you so much for coming to talk with us. And I really look forward to seeing you guys at the conference.
I'll go next. The thing that I would say, the thing that I think of when finishing this meeting would be, nothing in this life is constant but change. And if that is nothing but a fact, which it is, we need to make the change as best as we can. And we need to make that change as profitable and as healing and as, as great as we can, so that we can create a better world and a better future for our children, our grandchildren, their children, our nieces, our nephews, our family in general. Like, we just need to make that change. And just this meeting has just, it just expands on that and how to get to that space. And I really appreciate all of your guys' time. And I appreciate you, Stephanie, and you, Kory, for your guys' time and your amazing energy, and all the things you guys have done. And I hope your guys' evening goes great. And I look forward to connecting with you guys very, very soon.
For me, I feel like I made some amazing new friends today, and I really, really encourage you, and I'm so eager to continue this dialogue and to build on this friendship.
My word would be connection. And to follow up with everyone's theme, thank you both so much for being here. And I look forward to connecting with you both more.
Kind of along the same lines, my word would be community. I had a lot of time listening to both of you guys speak. It was definitely very powerful, and I want to use it like with my own skills and kind of like at public health in the Rockies. And again, thank you both so much.
Yeah, my 2 words are empowerment and community, and I'm super excited. Thank you so much for all of sharing everything and all the resources, and I look forward to public health in the Rockies. So yeah.
Yes, oh my Theo, thank you all so much for being here, for sharing your energy. I am very excited for what is to come and to continue collaborating with you all. Huge shout out to Stephanie and Kory, and to all of you for being here. So much love. Michaela, Megan, Candy, Bree, all of our youth leaders who, had to hop off or who couldn't join us tonight. I'll make sure this recording is available. I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording.